Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ivy, and today I'm going to be talking about The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. So this book is super popular in the YA world, and for good reason. It has a movie coming out on October 19th, which I am so excited to see. I hope it's amazing. It's gonna be amazing. I mean, if it's not amazing, that's really, not cool, because this book is amazing. So it follows Star Carter, and she's 16, and she kind of lives in two different worlds. One is her neighborhood, where there are gangs and shootings and stuff like that, so it's kind of rough. And then the other is her preppy school called Williamson, and she is one of only 2 black kids in her whole grade. And so most of them are rich and white. So there's a big contrast between these two worlds, and she tries her best to keep them from clashing. But then when her best friend Khalil is murdered right in front of her by a police officer, she kind of can't keep her worlds apart anymore, and she has to deal with the fallout of what happened. And she has to find her voice to speak out against what happened, and yeah. This book's characters are so amazing. We have Star, obviously, and she loves basketball and shoes. She's so passionate about it, and I love that about her. She's very brave. Like, the whole book, she's kind of like, no, I'm not brave, but then I think it's her mom says, like, yes, you are. Bravery is going on despite fear, and that is exactly what Star does, and she's just an amazing character, and I had so much fun reading about her. There's a bunch of other characters like Khalil, her best friend, even though in the months before his death, they weren't really close anymore, but they were very, very close as kids, and Khalil is a really hardworking and loyal person. He was a very hardworking and loyal person, and he always took care of his family, and he was a great guy, and we don't get to see him personally in the book, but we get to see Star's memories of him, and he was just a great guy, and obviously did not deserve this. So we have Chris, and Chris is Star's white boyfriend, which is a big thing, kind of a conflict throughout the book, and Chris is really sweet and caring, and he loves Star so much, and he made me so happy. I don't know, he was just really sweet, and I loved his relationship with Star, and how no matter what, they were kind of on and off throughout the book, but no matter what, he always wanted to make things right, and he wanted them to be okay, and that just made me so happy. I don't know, I love it. We also have Seven, and so Seven is Star's half-brother, so they share a dad, but it's kind of confusing. Well, okay, so Seven is really protective, and he's sweet, but he's I don't know, he's just really protective. He's really brotherly. Anyway, so he and Star share their dad, but so does this girl, Kenya, who Star isn't related to, but Star's dad and Aisha, Kenya and Seven's mom, they had Seven together. Kenya was not Star's dad's kid. That's so confusing, but there's a bunch of conflict there as well. And Kenya she also has a really tough shell, and she and Star are kind of on and off throughout the book. Yeah. We also have Uncle Carlos, who I absolutely love, who is pretty much kind of a fatherly figure for Star, since her father was in jail for her first couple of years of life. And then we also have Star's parents, and all 3 of these adults are so loving and caring and supportive of Star, and I love it. Her parents are amazing. Uncle Carlos is amazing. Everything about them all is amazing. Another character is Haley. She is not so amazing. She is Star's friend at Williamson. She is pretty outspoken and opinionated, not necessarily something that I would agree with, her opinions or Star agrees with, and their friendship kind of starts to fall apart throughout the book because lots of stuff happens. So that is it for the non-spoilery section of this video. If you have not read this book, and you really should, honestly, everyone should read this book, leave the video now and then come back when you have read it, so then I can talk to you about the rest of the book. So let's talk for a second about Khalil's death scene. And when the cop is pulling up behind them, how scared Star is. The whole thing where, like, when I was 12, my parents gave me 2 talks, like the normal one, like, about, you know. And then they also told me how to act around police officers. That was shocking for me. Police officers, for me, are like people who I can trust and people who are protecting me, but then for Star, they're people that she's always afraid of, and she needs to please, and she needs to act exactly right, or she could get killed. After the fact, no one really knows that Star was the witness, and she needs to keep it that way because, well, bad stuff could happen to her if people find out. But we find out as well that Natasha, Star's other best friend, was killed in a drive-by shooting when they were 10. So Star, pretty much, now she's lost her 2 best friends to violence, and she has nightmares about it, and oh my god, it's awful. And so the news, and they're calling Khalil a thug, and Star's obviously not happy about this, and they're just saying, like, he was a drug dealer, and they're not talking about the officer who shot him, they're talking about how Khalil may have been a drug dealer. No one knows for sure if he was, but that's the only thing they focus on, that he was a drug dealer and that he was a thug, even though it may or may not be true. No one really knows. So the whole thug life thing was so great, and let's just talk about it. So thug life spells out the hate you give, like the letter U, obviously. The hate you give little infants, F's everyone, which is so powerful and great and, like, perfect. So basically, like, the minorities, the black people, they're the thugs, not thugs, the infants. God, they're the infants that they're talking about, and because these people are oppressed, like, bad stuff happens, but not just to these people. They take it out on each other, but also on other people, like white people and other people of other races. I can't form words. And yeah, so thug life, the hate you give, was really, really powerful and good. And the whole other thing, like the conversation that Star has with her dad in the car about how these people are trapped in this constant loop of, like, having to sell drugs to support themselves, but needing drugs, some people thinking they need drugs to survive, but not being able to afford the proper rehabilitation programs and all this stuff that's just a cycle that they can't get out of because of society and everything. And that was really, really powerful. Star lies at school, says that she didn't know Khalil because she doesn't want people to be like, oh, she's ghetto and she's a thug, and she just didn't want, like I said earlier, she didn't want her 2 worlds to clash like that. So I'm editing this video right now, and I realized that I completely forgot to talk about, like, one of the most important things, and that is that Star was always, like, she had 2 sides of her. Like, at Williamson, she was too afraid to be ghetto, so she would, like, talk differently and act completely differently than how she would act, like, at home in her neighborhood, and that's, like, a really important part of the book, and I completely forgot to talk about it. So back to the video. Star talks to, like, the detectives, and they are only asking questions about Khalil. Nothing about the officer that murdered him, just about Khalil. Like, did you ever see him selling drugs and stuff like that? And they're focusing on Khalil and, like, trying to justify his death. And obviously Star is getting really upset, and that was horrible. And then it's announced that 1:15, the officer is put on leave. Just on leave. And so he's put on leave until, like, further notice, not arrested or anything, just put on leave. At Khalil's funeral, Miss Ofra talks to Star, and she's from Just Us for Justice, and says, we're gonna get justice for Khalil. The King Lords show up, which is this gang. They basically make it look like Khalil was one of them, and Star is really confused because she thought that Khalil would never do something like that. Her parents start to kind of fight about whether they should leave Garden Heights or not. Devontae shows up, at the store, and Star's dad decides to help him, and then they later find out that he stole, I think, something from King, or he owes King something. I don't really remember exactly what it was. So at school, there is a protest that happens, but the only reason for it is to get out of class. There were a couple people who didn't participate, but most people did, and that was, I mean, okay, some people, like, participated thinking, like, oh yes, this is a great cause, not really knowing that the only reason the protest started was to get out of class, but, like, most people were doing it for that reason, and this breaks Star's heart, and I just, oh my god. Like, Haley, I hate Haley so much. Star's dad is harassed by the cops. This scene made me so uncomfortable, and I was so nervous and on edge the entire time because I thought they were gonna arrest him. And honestly, every time they had an interaction with, like, the police, I would be tense. Like, I was expecting them to shoot someone else. And, oh my god, it was nerve-wracking. And just thinking about actually being in that situation. The only reason that they are harassing her dad is because they know that Star is the witness. So then, Star finds out that, they are saying that the cop, he thought that a hairbrush was a gun. And that's why that's not the whole reason why he says he shot Khalil, but he thought a hairbrush was a gun. So after they find out that Devontae, like, is gonna be killed by King, they take him to Carlos, and then, Star's dad finds out about Chris, and he is mad because Chris is white and he doesn't think Star should be dating him. And yeah, so the whole thing, Star doesn't think she should be dating Chris because he's white, he's rich, she's black, she's poor, she comes from the hood, he comes from whatever he comes from. I just, Star and Chris, I like them a lot. I don't know, they figured it out, but that whole, I think it's very real, the conflicts, like the internal conflicts that Star goes through. I love him, but I shouldn't be dating him. That was, it was great. 115's dad is interviewed on TV, and he basically tells everyone the story that his son said, and basically said a bunch of lies. Trying to decide what to say. We're gonna go with lies. So anyways, he says that Star and Khalil were cussing and all this untrue stuff. And then, yeah, so that's the thing. He's lying. And then Haley's defending him, and Star knows what's true, and she is building up this kind of hatred for Haley. Uncle Carlos talks to Star, and she realizes that not all cops are bad, because Carlos is a cop, and he's a good person. He wouldn't do something like that, and she knows that, and she knows that not all cops are bad. But there are bad ones, and that is a thing, and it's bad. Star's interviewed on TV, and she is taking all these blows she's shooting all these blows, I don't know how to say it, at 115 and, like, everything that's been going on. And then at the end, like, so she tells the truth. And at the end, she says, when asked what she would say to 115 if she saw him, she says, I'd ask if he wishes he shot me too. And that was just perfect. I was literally like, you go, girl. So Star appears in front of the grand jury, and she tells the story, and then they're waiting to hear what the verdict is. And she gets in the fight with Haley, and because Haley was saying, you can't get over that Khalil died, and it's not my fault that you can't get over a drug dealer's death, and she's saying all this stuff, and then Star snaps, and they fight. It was great. I loved it. I'm a really violent person, but I really enjoyed the fight. Star is at Chris's house when she gets a call that Devontae is missing, and that's when everything gets crazy. So they go looking for him. Chris comes, which is amazing. I was so happy that Chris came. I loved it. Oh my god. Can we just talk about this for a sec? The mac and cheese thing. Breadcrumbs are great. Okay? On mac and cheese. I love my breadcrumbs on mac and cheese. You know, you can fight me. Breadcrumbs are the best. So they find Devontae at King and Aisha's house, and then Aisha helps them get him out, and they get out, and then Kenya and Lyric go to like their grandparents' house, and then they hear on the radio they decided not to indict the officers. So I honestly wasn't surprised. I was hoping, like, for the character's sake, I was hoping that he would be indicted, but for like honesty's sake, it's really, really, really great that he wasn't, because that's what happens. They go to the riots and the protests, and then this is the best part of the whole book, when Star speaks in front of everyone and throws the tear gas. And then King decides to burn down her dad's store, but then everyone tells the police that King did it, and he gets arrested. And that was great, because he has been such a jerk, I don't know, such a problem. And they finally got him arrested. It was great. So the book basically ends after this, but they're living in the new neighborhood in their new house, and they're gonna rebuild the store. No, they're gonna have Mr. Lewis's, was his name Mr. Lewis? They're gonna have Mr. Lewis's store, which I thought was great. And yes, it's the end of the book, and the actual end of the book was so good. She was like, I promise that I'll never forget you, Khalil. I'll never stay quiet. I'll always speak up. I won't give up. And that was amazing. This book gets a 5 out of 5 stars. It was so good. It was amazing. I don't even know what to say. This book is amazing. You should read it if you haven't. Everyone should read it. It was amazing. I loved it so much. And this is just, oh my god, we need this. Like, thank you, Angie Thomas, for giving us this book. It's amazing, and I love it. And thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this book as much as I did. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time with another video.